Hello, everybody. Welcome to the World Builders Library. I'm Lewis Nichols. I should know better than this. I'm working without a script. I'm going to try to keep it concise. You guys may or may not know, one of the projects I'm working on right now is a script and general ideas. I'm also adding to my World Builders Bible that I call my development document. It's all about developing fantasy religions. It's one of the more interesting subjects in world building, I think. And I've been doing a lot of area building, a lot of blank page builds, talking about biome, stuff like that. So this is a little bit of a change of pace. I haven't worked on world building religion for a while. So one of the things I want to do, I kind of have two goals. The first goal is to talk about the tenets of a given religion and come up with a list. Now, Earth religions usually get nailed down to 4 or 5 tenets. These can be help the poor. These can be the importance of prayer and gathering. They're things that the religion as a whole stresses that make it different. One of the tenets of Islam is to make a religious pilgrimage to Mecca, and that's something that can easily fit into any fantasy religion as well. And it can be so many different things. And you can think about the different fantasy worlds and the religions that you know about being developed for them. I often come to Lolth and the Drow and how intermingled they are, and the matriarchy being hand in hand with the religion, and the veneration of spiders. This is one fantasy religion that's did a really good job of, these are your foundations. And maybe it's a little bit easier to do when it's tied to one culture. Hard to say. Now, the gods of Forgotten Realms, I think, are a very well developed group. I'm going to call them a pantheon, although you don't have to. Sometimes you just think of pantheons as being a word that describes one set of gods in a setting. So if you only have one set of gods, the word pantheon loses its meaning. But I think pantheon's still fair. I would call it a world pantheon. Just for that reason, it's the only grouping of gods. You don't have to worry in this case about resolving issues of what happens when weather gods compete, or when religions as a whole compete. There's no competition. There's just the gods. So they've got about 40 deities, and that's what you get when you have so many years to develop one project. This was one of the first Dungeons and Dragons worlds. They've had a long time, and a lot of people have worked on this. And recently, Wizards of the Coast has tried to get back into stressing their worlds, and this is one of them that they've pushed. They've released a couple of books, and that's one of the ones that we're going to work on today. I want to just run through the Pantheon, give my thoughts, and talk about some of the things that using somebody else's work can inspire. If you have a world Pantheon, and any Pantheon, really, it can be competing Pantheons, but each Pantheon, there are certainly certain things that they need to satisfy among their worshipers. And then there's lots of things that you can add, that aren't strictly necessary, but they might fit the culture. They might fit the state. They may fit current events. They may just fit something that you want to do. So we're just gonna kind of dive in and start talking about some of these. We're gonna go through them pretty quick. I mean, there's 40 of them, and I'd like to keep this video shorter than it's gonna be. Emuntar. Once again, come up with names that you can pronounce, but it's probably as much about my eyesight as it is about being able to pronounce anybody that ever hung out with me knows that if I've got to read something like a magic card or whatever, it's got to be right up against my face. So now these deities also have home planes. That's not something I do. My gods are kind of the everywhere kind of thing. They don't live in a house, but that doesn't mean they're not going to have a central location, and it might be a place where their top end hierarchy hangs out. Not necessarily them. One thing about these deities, I think they don't have stat blocks like the gods used to in Dungeons and Dragons. I think that's a good thing. They're not necessarily all powerful. That's difficult to do when you have more than one. But they are extraordinarily powerful. They're not something that it's really designed for characters to go up against in thinking about combat and such. But anyway, so this guy is the god of the sun. Do you have to have a god of the sun? Probably not, but it makes sense if you do have one. Farmers, lawmakers, and travelers. One thing, I read this specific description of this deity, has a lot to do with law and order, because the days are orderly. I mean, they're kind of the first order of an organized universe. The sun comes up, sun goes down. We have Asmodeus. This is a plot point. I never read or studied or got into exactly how it all happened, but this is an ascension story with a powerful being that wasn't a god that has become a god. And that may or may not be possible in your world. It's not in mine, but you can become extraordinarily powerful. So there's corrupt politicians and desperate folk that follow. Asmodeus, he is the god of indulgence. I'm not sure I love that. I mean, Asmodeus is a devil and hence follows the basic idea of lawful evil. Indulgence to me is more of a demonic thing, but whatever. It's fine, and your world does not have to lack contradiction. You can have it and deal with it, and it actually often makes things more interesting when things conflict and you have to come up with a story behind it. Arl, god of winter. I don't remember if there are other gods of seasons in here, but you can definitely have seasonal gods. You don't have to have them all. Like, I don't think these guys do. I usually like a god of the spring, but winter's good. Summer can combine, with nature or the harvest. Fall can, double with preparation. And some of this depends upon the part of the world too. Remember that if you're focused in a part of the world or a world that doesn't have major seasons, like if you're tropical, then you're probably not going to do this. So this dude is, the god of winter. Got some druids, inhabitants of cold climates. Big gods being regional gods are not a bad thing. I need to go faster. Azuth, god of wizardry. You can have class gods. You can have barbarian gods or ranger gods or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have them all. Same thing as the seasons. You just throw them in, not necessarily as placeholders, but something to build around. That is a Zuth. This is Bane, god of tyranny. You need your good gods, you need your evil gods. It's pretty much that simple. Tyranny. Bishasha. Bishaba. Yeah, Bishaba. God of misfortune. Again, you need your good gods, you need your bad gods. Now, misfortune can go both ways. This is probably, this is an evil god because the Red Wizards are among the followers, and he hangs out in the abyss. So bad guy. You want your bad guys to have a big power behind them. So your evil faction can have this whole hierarchy just like your good guys can. They have their angels. They have their high-end powerhouses. And most of those, even high-level campaigns, are never going to see or deal with. But Baal, god of murder, that's pretty direct. We've had a run of them here. It's all the same thing to say. And it's gods of acts, like an act of murder. But you can also gods of seduction, an act of seduction, gods of the forge, the act of creating products. Shanti. Shanti is the god of agriculture. I have a hard time not seeing a pantheon having a god of agriculture. It can combine with gods of weather. It can combine with gods of summer or spring. But a god of agriculture is almost a must. Cyric, god of lies. I'm sure this falls into thieves and manipulators, power-hungry folk. It creates a rich overlap of evil powers backing evil factions, and these evil factions can, we know they're not always going to get along. So it creates a rich tapestry. If you have this large grouping of bad guys, it can become very complex. Maybe you have the priests of Cyric opposed to the priests of Osmodeus. God of writing. This guy is a denier. You could do scholarly stuff, obviously. Next up is Illystria. Yeah. God of song and moonlight. Keep in mind, I don't play other people's worlds, so this is the first time I'm hearing most of these names, so that's why the freaky pronunciation troubles. Most of these are gods that I've never dealt with before. They're new words to me, so we'll be okay. We'll get through it. Gods of song and moonlight. Blade singers are among the followers of this god, along with elves and performing artists. So yeah, good guy gods. Now, maybe better to say middle ground gods, because it's still a god of the night. Illystria does not have to be. Their followers don't have to always be goody goody. So, and you can have divisions within the church. You can have multiple churches devoted to a single deity. Eldath, the god of peace. We're getting into the good guys now. This is going to be pacifists, druids, and the dying. Yeah, sure. Life is suffering. So you're looking for peace. That makes perfect sense. Gond, god of craft. We talked about that a little bit earlier. We got artificers, crafters, engineers, and inventors. Sorry, I was just getting hung up on artificers being listed. They're not necessarily a class that is featured in Faerun or the Forgotten Realms in general. Uh, I don't know that you have to have a god of craft. I mean, you don't have to have anything you don't want. You're the world builder. Do what you want. But it makes a lot of sense to have a god of craft. This is very generic. This is the creation of anything by man. By Velito. And Helm, one of the most famous of them all, the god of watchfulness, fighters, guards, paladins, explorers. This is a god of adventurers. That's why he comes up so much. If you are going to have, if you're going to use this pantheon, you are definitely going to have among your players and characters a god of Helm. I've been listening to the Elmister books, and Helm is first and foremost. Let's see. Still not going fast enough. Ilmatar, god of endurance. Endurance, racing, swimming, any kind of athletics you can get into, and of course, endurance, constitution gets into something that helps them all. It's an athlete's pantheon. Kelemvor, god of death. That's one of them. It's hard to do without a death deity. I mean, people want an afterlife. That's one of the big deals about religion, is that they offer eternal life. Not necessarily in the same form as you're on the central plane, but you get to survive death. Lathander, god of dawn and renewal. Pretty common. It's a nice hope theme. So you're going to have some of these. You can also do Twilight, which just the opposite, death and dying, the ending of things as opposed to the beginning of things. God of illusion. This is Lyra. You also have another Lyra, which is spelled almost exactly the same way. God of joy. So God of illusion, I'm sure deals with aspects of truth and seeking the truth and revealing the truth, and it looks like bards and singers too. Basically, I would assume that this has to do with storytelling and the revelation of truths through the spoken word. So our God of joy, same idea. And that is actually the one I just read about the singers and dancers. So going back to the god of illusion, we are talking about rogues and con artists. A little bit different. Makes a little more sense, but once again, it doesn't always have to make sense. We're at the 20-minute mark. We're about halfway through the list. So this is all in the Forgotten Realms. It's chapter 3. It's page 99. They've got a whole neat list of them. This is Heroes of Faerun, so the player's expansion. I think what it comes down to is that when you are world building a religion, there's not really wrong answers, but the more work you put into it, the denser your lore is going to be. I would do it in phases. In getting ready for a campaign, I would make sure that your base needs are taken care of. You have your god of a god of war if you're planning that kind of campaign, potentially a god of war. That's always an iffy if you have to have one. It's probably more has to do with the plot of your campaign. So let's stick to the ones you actually need to have. I mean, god of death, god of agriculture, which is some kind of fertility god. I mean, that can be the same thing. You need something that is super obviously the good guys. Maybe a god of happiness or joy, or a god of healing, or a god of well-being. And then you need the definite bad guys, the god of pain, the god of darkness, the god of chaos. And then there's geography relevant gods. If you're on the sea, you need a sea god. If you're on a big river, you need a river god. If you're on a savanna, you might want, the lion god. You might want a dinosaur god if you got lots of dinosaur themes in your world. If you want to stress barbarians, then the god of rage could definitely be a thing. If you want to stress, if you want to run a nature bound campaign, then you're going to want to have your nature gods ready. So maybe pre-campaign, building a brand new world, you don't want to hold up the campaign. So just get in 5 or 6 and acknowledge that there's going to be more, and that's something that you can work on with your players too. If they want to do something a little odd, they can write up their own god. The important part mechanically isn't the god, never has been. It's the that thing, the sphere, the realm, the you know what I mean. Daggone it. It is the circle, the order, the word that refuses to come to mind. This is killing me, but I don't care. The domain. Gods can have multiple domains. You don't need to nail it down too much, as long as it makes some amount of sense. You don't want your good gods doing bad things or your bad gods doing good things, but that leaves plenty of in-between room. If your player can justify it, I say go for it. All right. Glad you were all here today. We're just going to stop because of time, and there's only so much value in just reading out of the book, right? You can do that. You can probably pull this up on the internet pretty easily. I'm glad that you all stopped by today. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. The world is a better place with you. Stick around. We love having you here. Cheers.